mental fortitude. It's more the strength, the protection that I have around my own mental state.
Triggers and getting triggered are very much part of the human experience.
Yeah.
How do I reduce the intensity of my reaction? Going to couples therapy was my way of getting him into therapy. I realized there were so many things that I was doing out of my own anxieties.
I first started because I was stuck in a cycle that just kept repeating itself and what is probably considered a toxic situationship. I have been told by somebody, maybe you shouldn't be so open to people that you're in therapy. It gives the wrong message or impression.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, but why?
Welcome everyone to this week's episode of Trying Very Hard. Today it's just me and Monica talking a lot about therapy and mental health. Therapy just as one way to care for your mental health. Mental health at this point in time is kind of everywhere. It's all over social media, corporate wellness programs, and even just in like everyday conversation. I feel like it's way more common to now hear people say, I was triggered, or like I need to set more boundaries, or I need to protect my peace. The language of therapy comes up a lot more in our everyday life.
Yeah.
Yet not everyone is in therapy, and not everyone has to be in therapy. And I would say not everyone that's in therapy is fully there. And so today we wanted to talk about trying very hard in therapy and why actually it is hard to go to therapy, be in therapy, and what our personal experiences have been both as a therapist and as a recipient of therapy.
Mental fortitude. I feel like it's no longer just like mental wellness for me. It's more the strength, the protection that I have around my own mental state and how I feel. As you get older, that's what I find is very important because I don't want to waste my time trying to process my emotions or being overwhelmed or reacting in a way that I didn't actually mean to. Just because I have a bunch of other pent up emotions.
Like wanting to be able to choose your response versus be affected by what this person said or what happened in, like this day.
And maybe we can share like what that looks like to you, like an ideal mental state, mental fortress for you.
It's worth mentioning first that triggers and getting triggered are very much part of the human experience, right? There's no way to avoid your triggers in your life because there's so much that isn't in our control.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
To me, what mental fortitude is developing a way to cope or deal with those triggers in a productive, constructive, healthy way.
Yeah.
Right? So that it doesn't affect how you're able to show up for yourself and for other people day to day. One part of that is being aware of what those triggers even are.
Yeah.
Right? And another part of that is how do I reduce the intensity of my reaction? How do I choose how actually I want to be responding to this thing that someone said, as I said earlier, or like this thing that happened in my day that I really, really did not want to happen.
Yeah. I think I agree with that. And one thing I'd like to add is like not letting one thing trickle over to other parts of your life. Because sometimes the root issue could be, you know, you're frustrated with a particular person, but any other person that then tries to engage with you just
caught in the crossfire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think that's also one important thing for me is like, I don't want to redirect my anger or my disappointment somewhere else.
Just like unnecessary negative ripple effect, bad energy that was never in your control to begin with, reach other people that did not ask for
through you. Like it stops with you.
Yeah, it stops with you.
It stops with you.
Yeah, or it can stop with you.
Yeah.
Bringing up mental fortitude as something that you're building in therapy is really refreshing to me because I think historically, right, mental health and what therapy was for was very different actually, right? It was for people who were like sick or people who had some sort of disorder. And I think that's a huge reason for why there's such a stigma around mental health in the first place.
Yeah.
It's great that people are now able to see it as I just want to show up better for the people around me. Like, I'm not in any deficit right now, really, but like, I don't want to like come over to Monica's house and be in a bad mood around her. Like, that's not nice either.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe related to what I was saying about historically, therapy has been much more to heal, right? Or like the healing model of therapy for people who are sick or who have disorder.
It's like to get back to a normal.
Exactly. To get back to like zero. And so a lot of people think, okay, I'm only going to go to therapy when something's wrong or when something breaks, when I'm in crisis, when I've lost something, when a relationship has fallen apart.
Yeah.
That period of whether it's anxiety, depression, emotional overwhelm just becomes like way too loud.
Yeah.
I'm curious, actually, even for you, like before you started therapy, right, what your impression of therapy was, like who it's for, what it does, like what did you picture?
Before starting, I always thought people who are in relationships where it's like constant fighting, that would just be like, okay, this is somebody who needs therapy, because why do you go out and then as soon as you consume alcohol, your night just spirals and it like ruins everybody else's night. So that's, I think, what came to mind. And so for me, I'm like, luckily I was never in any of those.
I don't do that to other people. So I don't need therapy.
Yeah. Like, I'm still acting pretty normal. Like, nobody would think that I have anger issues, alcoholism, trust issues in relationships, you know?
But it's like these very loud, very like external, visible problems that you'd think like this person needs to go to therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back then, it wasn't differentiated between a therapist and a psychiatrist, right?
And like everything in that space.
Yeah.
Actually.
Like everything in college was so, I feel like it was so big around me. They're like, oh, just like I'm on Lexapro or I'm on whatever, whatever other meds, you know?
Yeah.
And so I always thought therapy equals all these drugs that'll help you cope.
I actually want to stay here because I think this is something that not a lot of people know. And even for me, coming into the profession like years back, right? I really didn't know the distinction between, I think psychiatrist, psychologist was a little bit more clear, but you have psychiatrists, you have clinical psychologists, you have therapists, you have counselors, you have now life coaches, right? What is the difference between all of these things? So in my mind, I'm just going to give a quick summary of how I sort of frame all of these different roles. So if you think about mental health on a spectrum, right? You have like your negative to positive. Let's say like you have -1 to 0 to 1. Right? And this is your mental wellness spectrum. So at -1, typically, this is where your psychiatrists and your clinical psychologists work. Psychiatrists are doctors that prescribe medication. So actually, a lot of them don't focus too much on like sitting down for an hour and talking to you about your problems, right? Clinical psychologists focus much more on that. Right? So they don't prescribe, they may work closely with psychiatrists, but typically they'll work with clients that have some sort of disorder, whether that's a mood disorder or a personality disorder. And a lot of the work with their clients tends to be much more long-term because of it, right? Because they're trying to get these people from a negative state, right, to 0, to stable. And as mental health and therapy becomes more accessible to people, becomes more quote unquote mass market, like just normalized, you have roles like counselors and you have roles like psychotherapists and now life coaches that I would say play more on like the 0 to 1. Kind of teetering 0. You might have people who situationally or circumstantially are going through some really tough times, right? Like maybe they just went through a divorce or like a tough breakup or they're grieving, right? And they need, in this point in their lives, to speak to someone that can help them, right? And improve their mental state. And then you have life coaches. Life coaching clients are type A, like perfectionists, high achievers, very functional. But there's like this one part of their life that feels stuck, right? So they're going from, actually maybe from like 1 to like 10 or 1 to 5.
And there are very specific life coaches to like career, love, personal.
Relationship coaches are a thing. Coaching is such a broad space, which is another topic for another day. I just wanted to make at least the broad buckets clear, because I think coming into the space, I was like, I don't know what the difference is between all of these people. Like, I don't know who to go to when I'm in X situation or facing like Y problem.
Even with all the different types of help that you can get, right? Why do you think people are still so hesitant and resisting to therapy?
Yeah. A lot of the people that I speak to, definitely of our generation, like, I think there's a common stance of, oh no, like, therapy is a good thing. Like, therapy can be helpful, but not for me. I know this person and that person.
They're open.
Totally need therapy. Yeah, they're
But
like,
not me.
open to it, but like, I don't need it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need it right now. And I don't know, I think there are a lot of very cultural, historical things about where we are in the world, like Southeast Asian culture or Asian culture, that has made looking for help at all really difficult, actually. And even more so for mental health, where there is like this perception of weakness, like mental weakness is a very scary thing to have, I think, in this culture.
Yeah, and I think just you bringing that up, right? I feel like growing in Indo, if you have a mental illness, you're kind of equated to as like insane.
Yeah, you're crazy.
Right? Like the number of times that you've heard like rumah sakit gila or like, that's like, it's not nice. I know it's like a slang term, but being called like an insane hospital, a mad institute, I guess is what.
Like a madhouse.
Yeah.
Like the Western equivalent would be like a madhouse.
Yeah, and so I feel like you would veer on the path of making sure that you always seem fine so that nobody think that you'd have to go to those kind of places.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you kind of resort, at least for me growing up, I'd resort to like, don't show too much emotion.
Exactly.
Don't share too much.
Yeah. Like even
for fear
good
of being
emotions,
judged.
actually.
Yeah.
Emotional repression becomes much more of a thing because we're trying so hard to avoid being seen as crazy or too much or erratic and all of those, all of those things that you just talked about. I think that also then spills over to sharing problems in general.
Yeah.
Right? We don't want to show any kind of vulnerability, any kind of
You don't want to
weakness.
seem like somebody who's not resilient and weak.
Yeah. And when you do share something that you're struggling with, there's always this fear of, or there's commonly, I would say, a fear of judgment.
Yeah.
A fear of people thinking that, you're weak or you're a failure or, you just like, you can't handle things. You're incompetent, right? It could be like a whole gambit of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that judgment is really scary. And I think in this part of the world, people are very quick to make those judgments.
Yeah. Just like with the physical, just with the smarts, people are good at one thing, bad at another. And I think that's what your mental wellness or strength also comes into play. It's like you could be good at showing your emotions and like emotionally processing things, but you could also maybe be not as good in terms of resilience or like not letting your emotions, it's like, but everybody's different. Just because one person likes to cry more does not mean they're not strong mentally.
Yeah. And I think people show like different levels of resilience at different points in their lives too, right? It's not like I may be very okay in one season of life and be more overwhelmed and like cry more in another season.
Yeah. Or you're resilient with job stuff, but maybe home stuff you're a bit more sensitive, you know?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong, but everybody's different.
Yeah.
And so you can't measure people to the same level that you compare yourself to and then be like, oh, just because they like to cry more, they're emotionally unstable.
Yeah. What do you observe in how the people around us showed emotion growing up? Or like your family, your parents?
My family's not that emotional. My mom would be the most emotional one. I cried often when I was younger. When I wanted something, I show a lot more of my emotions, even though it doesn't happen often, but by crying, I just get overwhelmed. But supposedly, it's a thing. Like when you're overwhelmed, your brain can't put into words exactly. Like sometimes you don't know, you can't say stuff, and then you get overwhelmed and you just start crying because it's like...
It's the only thing that you can express.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's apparently like a biological thing that's happening in your head. Asian families, community, like I feel like parents maybe had the pressure of like showing that they always had it together. They were a lot more reserved behind closed doors. You know, in your very typical Asian Indo-Tanta society, is like, my mom could be mad at me, really mad, furious. But then as soon as my friend's there or her friends are there, she's like cheery and uppity.
Yeah.
And I think that's totally normal because you don't want people to know that like you get angry.
Yeah. My family is quite similar. I would say growing up, I never really saw my dad too emotional. He really valued logic. And being very reasonable about things, thinking through things very clearly, and not as much making space for emotions and letting that drive or signal something.
Yeah.
My mom, I would say, maybe was a little bit more emotional, but even then I wouldn't say that like she was the type to blow up or have a temper or cry. I think she was also quite composed. And I think because of that, that's kind of what you learn to adopt as well.
I mean, probably the number of times that you were told to like hold back your tears.
Yeah.
Like,
Don't
stop
cry.
crying.
Yeah.
Stop. Like,
Yeah.
stop crying. And so you just hold it in.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think seeing parents who themselves try very hard to be composed as a child, even though obviously you're going to have tantrums and stuff here and there, but whenever you do throw a tantrum, like, it's very clear that that's not correct. Right?
Yeah.
Or it feels very burdensome to your parents or whoever your caretakers are.
Yeah.
Right? And so you try to model like, okay, I need to be more logical in how I make decisions. I need to be like very responsible. No one needs to see when I'm angry, or I can't let my anger take over.
Yeah.
Even though anger is a perfectly normal human emotion.
It's normal.
Yeah.
What's important is like to notice how long you get stuck in these ruts for, how easily you can get yourself out of it.
And noticing maybe what the anger is trying to tell you when you do experience it.
Yeah.
Right? Or what's like just underneath the anger that you might want to confront. Yeah, so I think that's one reason why admitting maybe I need therapy is hard to do. And then there's also, I think, something that's much more logistical, which is it's hard to find a therapist.
No, it's easy to find a therapist. It's hard to find a therapist,
good therapist
that works for you.
Yeah.
Because different methods, different vibe, just like you don't vibe with everybody. Your therapist is like that too.
It's just an annoying thing to have to go through, approach, and go shopping almost, right? For different therapists, because with each therapist, there's a level of vulnerability that you should be showing or you want to show.
Yeah.
And that in itself is effortful. There's a financial component. Okay, I'm going to do like first consults with how many different therapists, and that's going to end up costing how much for me.
Yeah.
So there's a big emotional load. There's also a not insignificant financial load if you do actually want to go through this process of finding the right fit for you.
Yeah.
Even with one therapist, you can't always know off the bat whether or not this is going to be a good fit for you. It's multiple sessions sometimes with a single therapist where you're sharing a lot of different things. And so you have some level of rapport, they have some level of context, and then when you realize 5 sessions in or like weeks into working with them, oh, actually, I don't feel like I'm progressing as much or as quickly as I feel like I should be.
Yeah.
There is a lot of inertia to moving over because you can't just like download what you've shared and hand.
It's not just moving between
AI models. Yeah, exactly. And so there's this regurgitation of like all of these things that are probably really difficult to talk about, right?
Yeah. But I would say when I have moved therapist, I don't regurgitate everything from my past that I've spoken about. You know, we start with the problem or issue that I want to address and trust in your therapist that they have the tools to uncover these things from you slowly.
Yeah. When I was talking about sort of transferring knowledge and what you've already shared from one therapist to another, I think this is just a fear, what they think they will have to do when they move from therapist to therapist. I think that's also a fear that is, or effort that's very exaggerated in people's minds, right? Because from the perspective of a therapist, not everything that's happened in your life is important, right? Like, I actually don't need to know your whole history, your family background. And those things, like you said, will come up naturally, right? As we confront specific issues in your life, right? And slowly through conversation we learn new things, but it should feel much more natural than like, okay, I'm coming in for a first session, let me give you like
This is my life
Amanda
story.
101.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's not why you're here.
I feel like somebody who does that goes to therapy looking for a diagnosis or excuse for their past behavior. Okay, this is me. Like, I had this happen to me in childhood, this type of relationship, blah, 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 blah. Not necessarily like I find myself acting like this in these kind of situations. I don't know what to do. You know, it's not somebody who's looking for help, but somebody who's looking for
A diagnosis, like
Yeah.
you said. Yeah, or like an explanation for either why I'm behaving the way I am, or sometimes even like why other people are behaving the way they are.
yeah.
Right? Do I need to get this person to come into therapy
Yeah.
for a diagnosis? Or like, what's your assessment based on what I'm saying about this other person?
And I'm not saying I haven't done that for sure.
Yeah.
I have gone and I'm just like,
They're crazy, right?
yeah, like that just doesn't make sense. No, like nobody would behave in that way. And speak to anyone who's gone to therapy. I feel like they would say it has helped. Rarely do people say that therapy doesn't help them.
Yeah. Yeah. In some way,
Yeah.
right? I think to a large extent, therapy is also like you get as much as you're willing to take from the experience, right? And maybe this is like a good segue into our next point of like, once you're in therapy, right? Sometimes you're not fully there, right? Because there is either consciously or subconsciously a blocker that makes you not as open or performative in some way in front of this person. Yeah, and even as a therapist myself, knowing this, like I notice when I'm in therapy, especially with someone who's new, I think there's a part of me that wants to come off as smart and articulate,
Yeah.
can process things relatively well, but I need your help with this thing. There is a barrier and there's like a defensiveness almost for like how much you can actually learn
Yeah.
about yourself when you're in that mode.
Relating to that, I have had days when I already have therapy scheduled, but I'm just not feeling
Yeah.
it. So I feel like for a good portion of my session, I would just be answering with, I don't know. I'm not sure. Just because I'm like, I'm so tired. Like I'm not in the mental state
Yeah.
to do therapy.
Yeah.
And so I know that like sometimes I don't fully show up. At least I'm there.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily something you need to optimize either, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're tired, you don't, like you're just tired.
Yeah.
But I think at the very least, it's good to be conscious of it and not just say, I'm going to therapy. This should work for me.
Yeah. Well, what made you start therapy?
I started therapy actually through, I guess, 2 channels. The first channel was things happening within my family and going to a therapist. First individually because of that. One more effective therapy that I've done has actually been couples therapy. And this was only, I want to say 2 years ago, right after my husband and I got married, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is quite interesting. Like when Tom and I got married, that first year of marriage, there were a lot of things that were still like a lot of moving pieces in terms of like finding like career stability and things like that. And I guess just the first year of marriage, like you're also transitioning into a lot of things.
Yeah.
Living with a person, just the two of you for the first time, building your own habits and routines and things like that. A lot of new things emerge, right? In that first year of marriage, Tom and I were fighting quite a bit. Like we were fighting a lot. And I kept telling him, like, I think you should go to therapy. Not that he was resistant to it, but he never really acted on it. And actually going to couples therapy was my way of getting him into therapy. And my mindset actually was very much, I feel like pretty stable, actually. Like, I feel as a therapist myself, like, you know, like I'm pretty self-aware. Like, I'm not, like, my ego's not too big that I won't apologize for things or reflect on like my behavior and things like that. What was interesting about that experience, and I told my therapist this, we came in together and then we did, like I did one session, Tom did his own session. And in my session with this therapist, I was like, I am only here because I think he needs to be here. As we got deeper and deeper into therapy, we ended up doing therapy for 9 months together, which is actually I thought it was quite long. I didn't expect to be in it for so long. And I realized there were so many things that I was doing actually out of my own anxieties and my own, whether it was guilt or fear of Tom moving over to this part of the world, right? And every time there was a mention of, oh, I don't like, my job isn't what it should be, or like, I don't feel at home here, I would immediately feel guilt. I would immediately feel fear. And these weren't massive, massive emotions, but I would do things to problem solve for him, almost like disempower his own healing. And so I learned through that experience how all of these things that I thought I was doing well or helping him with, that these things were actually contributing to his negative cycles. And so it was just a really cool experience, I think, for the both of us to learn. Every couple has like positive loops, like positive, we reinforce each other in really positive ways, but there are also loops that are negative, right? That feed into each other's anxieties and fears and doubts and things like that. And so it was 9 months of that and learning how to better slow ourselves down when we are rushing to, for me, it was like fix things for him. I loved it. I have been recommending couples therapy to a lot of people.
If anybody gets a recommendation, don't take it personally. It's just because she thought it was great.
And I think at that point, to be fair as well, we were fighting a lot, but I never once thought our marriage was in trouble. Like it hadn't gone that far that I was like, why did I marry this person, right? It was just, I think that we can be much better and much more aligned and interact in much more constructive, loving ways toward each other.
And also, I feel like a lot of couples where one person's in therapy and the other person is not, like
checked out.
Oh,
or just not in therapy at all.
Just not in therapy. Not checked out of the marriage, just not in therapy. But I would find it interesting that you as a person would be, okay, my wife or husband is going to therapy to tackle some of the things that we go through in our day-to-day. I would think that, like, why don't I go with them to better understand their point of view too? With a mediator, I'd want to support and I'd want to better understand so that I can help this person.
A big part of couples therapy is just working with this neutral third party, right, who can help you understand each other better. Right? And it's not all about hashing out all of the problems and fixing them on the spot. In fact, it's like really not that, because you can't. It's learning to listen to one another and learning to better communicate with one another. And a lot of the time that's not just support for you, that's support for this other person.
I've never done couples therapy, but I just assume if your partner came home and was like, I need you to be more understanding of me, or like just showing up for me when I tell you this. Sometimes when you hear that from the other person, you're not catching it. If that came from the therapist, you can then ask more questions and practice a little bit in session to equip you with those tools later on.
How do you get curious about what this person is saying versus, I think it's very easy in the moment at home to be like,
okay, I'll try, or like
take it personally in some way, right? In this safe space, which hopefully like your therapist can facilitate, there's more room to just understand, like, what do you mean by that when you say, what has your experience been in therapy?
I love therapy. I just love to talk, Well, so I first started because I was stuck in a cycle that just kept repeating itself in what is probably considered a toxic situationship. And I think I went in just because I felt exhausted. It would consume a lot of my mental space. And so I went into therapy thinking, I don't want to continue feeling like this. I don't want to continue exhausted, feeling like my attention is divided. Like I lost a lot of calmness in my life. And so I went trying to figure out how to get that back, either in terms of equipping myself with tools in order to stop myself from, say, spiraling, or to better understand where this person's coming from, or to better understand my own actions in those situations, right? And I think, like you said, you can talk about this to all of your friends, but also in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, obviously you guys are going to be on my side of things because you're my friends.
And we were very much on her side.
And so it's nice to have this unbiased opinion. And I think I wanted to go as well as a check that I am not crazy for having all of these thoughts, right? Or for having all of these concerns. And yeah, it was just like validating and made me feel good that it was actually something that's commonly experienced by people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there something that you learned about yourself that was, I didn't realize that I was behaving in this way because of this?
In the spirit of try hard.
Yeah.
Like for me, I felt like in that situation, we didn't get to try. You know, in the early stages of getting to know somebody, you're still a little bit not sharing, not being super candid about how you feel, not playing it cool. For me, I was like, okay, if I had tried, if I had been more clear, if I
Put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could have been different. And I think for me, that's what stuck. It's like, okay, if I just continue to do like one more step, it would get better. It would get better. Because I think for me, in situation when I feel like I've tried my best and I've done enough, I can let go of it because I'm like, it's out of my control. But if I feel like there's still something that I can do to improve and get better, I will try to do it. You know, I'm not going to just give up.
Yeah. Okay, so it was frustrating in hindsight looking at how not direct you were judging your previous efforts and like almost overcompensating.
In that time, I was like, you didn't try. Because I feel like I've never been emotional or never had to express myself. I'd always been the other person who would force me to open up. Like, I don't like confrontation. But I think through that, I learned, okay, this is the kind of person I am. Like, if I care, I would continue to try.
Yeah.
If I feel like it's still within my control, I would try to do what I can.
Yeah.
So and I think what I learned from being in therapy is that like what this person showed me that I valued in relationships that I didn't have before.
Yeah.
Learnings.
Both from this other person and from you.
Yeah.
Going into your next relationship or like your next thing, just the level of honesty and directness.
Yeah.
That you may need to have.
And however I felt, whether it was like, I think a big part that was important about this person is that I felt safe sharing and opening up. Like I never felt judged. And I think growing up in Jakarta, like I was always so self-conscious that the things that I would do would be judged and people would say things. And so having that safe space with somebody, I think is what I value.
I can relate to that. I think Jakarta sometimes feels like a very small world.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of knows each other. Everyone knows each other's business. And yeah, it's interesting that we've both kind of, I feel like exclusively dated people outside of that world.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, if I look back.
Yeah. Also, I guess a reason why we're in Singapore.
Yeah.
I think there's some selection bias there. And
yeah, it's just like a certain freedom that I felt.
Yeah. When you started therapy, were you very open about it? Were there hesitations that you had in like sharing that you were in therapy with people?
Luckily here, I feel like a lot of my friends were already in therapy, so it's quite easy. But I have been told by somebody that they're like, maybe you shouldn't be so open to people that you're in therapy. It gives the wrong message or impression. And in my head, I'm like, but why? All these people who would judge me, no offense, but like you're doing crazier, more erratic things that I'm like, you could benefit from therapy. You know, like maybe you're judging me for saying I'm crazy, but I'm like, okay, but you're spending like half of the week drunk. You know?
like gears are turning trying to figure out who this person is.
But I'm just saying,
like there's nothing to be ashamed of. Being in therapy might normalize it or give permission to someone else to say, maybe if Monica's doing it and she's like perfectly functional, perfectly normal, perfectly pleasant, like maybe I can benefit from it too.
Yeah, like talk to me about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love talking to people about therapy. Yeah. And sharing my own
I've tried all different kinds of therapy. Online, in person, hypnotherapy, meditation, regression, didn't click, but clearly I've forgotten. But now I feel like I know what I want out of a therapist and what to look for.
That's a good point too, by the way. Different therapists are trained in different modalities.
Yeah.
Right? And some of them will work, some of them won't work. And that doesn't necessarily mean that something that works that doesn't work now will never work in the future.
Yeah.
Right? It really is like in this season of your life what you need.
Yeah.
And so even right now, like I adore my couples therapist. I can also imagine in a different season of my life facing a different problem that this person won't be the person to help me.
Yeah.
And you might need to go through that exercise of finding a new therapist or a new coach or whatever it is to help you through that journey.
Do you think that couples should have the same therapist?
Individual therapist?
Like if you go to couples therapy,
Yeah.
can you go to that person for individual therapy? And can your husband go to that same person for individual therapy?
You can.
Yeah.
But I think everyone in this like triad needs to be comfortable, and the therapist, him or herself, needs to be like, you need to trust that this therapist can both, you know, act in your interest when you're working with them and act in your partner's interest.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that sometimes is kind of tricky to achieve. And so it may be better to work with a different therapist, but I don't think there's a clear do not. I think the therapist should have, if the therapist has a good level of self-awareness, to say, I think actually it's like the line is getting too muddled for me.
Yeah.
And I think either I work with one of you or I work with none of you.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we're human too, right? So if you say something that biases or colors my perception of your partner, like I bring that to sessions with that person as well.
Yeah.
Right? And I can do my best to separate, right? But it's difficult. And I think as a therapist, you just really need to be honest about that.
Yeah.
And as a client, you need to also be aware of where your therapist might be colored in how he or she is working with you.
Yeah. There's obviously ways that you can work on your mental health by yourself, right? Whether it's like journaling, meditation, talking with friends. I just, in the same way that people like taking, you know, fitness classes, they like taking personal trainer, like somebody else is guiding you to do it. And that's why I see my therapist, because I like that it's scheduled, it's time that's already set aside for me to reflect on these things. And it makes it easier for me to have somebody tell me what to do and guide me. Somebody who's experienced, somebody who is trained in these things, right? I feel like I'd get better use of my time 1 hour in therapy than 1 hour sitting alone by myself. I'm not saying that you don't need it. Sometimes you obviously still do that too. Going to therapy just helps with.
Yeah, it's true. There's no reason why it doesn't need to be a regularly checked dimension of health, because it's no less important than your physical health, actually. And your mental health does influence your physical health. And
It
vice
does.
versa.
There's a really good book, The Body Keeps a Score.
Yep.
There's all the mental and body axis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything is connected, guys.
Yeah.
So, so it does seem silly sometimes to be so focused on your physical health and neglect, what's happening up here. And I'm glad that we've both, I guess, gotten to a point where we can talk so openly about this topic. And hopefully, as we share our experience, you guys are learning something or took something away from this. But we did want to close this with actually a challenge for you guys, which is a little bit different to what we usually do, especially for those of you that have thought, I know I should go to therapy or I could go to therapy, but think about one area of your life in which you feel stuck. It doesn't need to be this like big glaring area, right? But just one area where you feel like you're holding back. Maybe you're playing small. Maybe you are making the same decisions, even though you know that they're not the best decisions that you could be making.
Or if it's just like not somewhere that you want it to be, but you can't figure out why.
So just identify it and imagine what would change or what might open up if you actually do the work on your own or in therapy to like properly, proactively confront it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we wanted to leave you guys with today.
And if you ever want to talk more about it, you can talk to me or you can talk to her, who's more of an expert about it.
Yeah, we're so open about this stuff. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we will see you
We'll see you very
next
soon.
time.